back in the day, I would wake up at 3 a.m. and the first thing I would listen to would be, "B better have my money," and it was like all the swearing and the bass and everything. And I would leave my house like a Tasmanian devil, to work. I would be going 100 miles an hour. One day we were fighting really bad. Me and my wife were fighting really bad. She was getting tired of just dealing with me. I was very, very damaged. We were about to split up and I went downstairs and it was dark in the living room. It was about 3 a.m. And for the first time in my life, I was like, I'm going to get on my knees. I'm going to see if this works. The young version of me, I would tell him to not listen to your mind because your mind reminds you of all the bad stuff and all the guilt and everything. And your heart kind of tells you the truth all the time, even when it hurts. Most people look at diet just like the food. Everything you consume is your diet, whether it's music, stuff you watch, stuff you read, I mean, everything you put into your body is your diet. It's not all about the money. And I always tell people, not all money is good money. It's funny because back then I used to say, don't let money change you. And now what I say, let love change you.
I think everybody out there is going to find happiness in a different way. In society right now with a lot of quote unquote experts that seem to think that they have the answer for everyone.
Accountability means I'm willing to admit that I played a role.
Pain, but not just pain, because I think we can turn into martyrs and we can be in pain and suffering and look how much I can carry. We talked earlier about like terminally unique, like look how hard my situation is.
Your heart kind of tells you the truth all the time, even when it hurts.
In order for you to get all the gifts at the end of the rainbow, you have to be responsible for your own energy.
My purpose is to bring change and confidence and leadership to the world, right? So when people see that somebody like me can achieve, it gives them hope.
It is interesting when we release our ego and make it less about us and make it more about the people who actually need our message.
I do it now. I'm not waiting to be a billionaire to help financially people.
You guys are going to absolutely love today's episode, but before we dive in, I wanted to let you guys know about the 2023 Evolve Retreats. I'm hosting 3 retreats this year in some of the most beautiful places on earth. The first one is in Oahu, Hawaii in July, and the next 2 are both in Iceland, both in September. This retreat is for men, women, solo travelers, couples. Everyone is welcome. Anyone that is interested in soul nourishment, adventure, exploring the beautiful wonders of earth, personal growth and development, connection, making new memories with new friends, and anyone that is on their own path of evolving. We are now accepting sign-ups, so head on over to evolvetheemilyretreats.com and hopefully I will see you later this year in either Hawaii or Iceland. Now let's get to today's episode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Evolve with Emily show. I am your host, Emily Hayden, and today I have men's transformational coach, speaker, YouTuber, Wrong to Strong, JC on the show. Welcome.
What's up?
Not much. How are you today?
Yeah, living life.
How's this year been for you so far?
It's been a ride. It's been like a roller coaster because this whole year I had to learn how to love, be loved, and just kind of learn to be, I guess you could say, normal.
Well, I want to get into your story a little bit so that people can understand where that comes from for you. So for people that don't know anything about you, don't know your background, could you give us a little insight into just your story?
I grew up in Chicago on the south side. A lot of violence, a lot of gangs. Childhood was pretty rough. I say pretty rough, but it was bad. And I grew up, by the time I was 9, I had a lot of hate in my heart. I had been raped, molested, drowned. Pretty much like tortured. So, by the time I was 9, I really didn't have no feelings. I really didn't know what love was. So, I went to the gang life and I fit in pretty easy and pretty good. I started hitting the streets and trying to hurt people, and people trying to hurt me, and it just became a deeper, I guess you could say, a deeper trauma. Mm-hmm. Started going to prison, and then from there it was just kind of in and out of prison. And by the time I was 16, I ended up in Mexico working for the cartel, and that started to feed a different violence in me, a different kind of monster. I went from I always tell 3 levels of violence, regular violence, medium, and then super high, where people are getting killed and chopped up and stuff like that. And it started to slowly change me. I didn't go to school, so I didn't know how to read and write or nothing. So I looked at being a drug dealer like my career. It was going to be like my future. So I kind of took it kind of serious.
Mm-hmm. And then you got locked up, and when was that, and for how long?
I ended up getting caught in Mexico after, I was bringing cars back and forth. I was in charge of the cars getting to Mexico, getting back to Chicago, and I was just pretty much in charge of that job. But I got greedy and I started getting more involved, and I ended up getting caught by the military in Mexico. And I went to Mexican prison.
And how long was that? I
was there for 4 years. 4 years. I was waiting for the American consul to come and get me, but they took a while to come and get me.
4 years is a long time. How does Mexican prison differ from American prison?
Well, prison is real prison over there. They don't give you clean clothes. They don't give you a cell. There's a lot of things that they don't give you that you have over here in American prisons. You have to pretty much fend for yourself. If you have family, they could bring you food and clothes and stuff like that, but nothing is given there. You have to have it or earn it, one of the two. A lot of violence. I mean, every day somebody was getting lynched or stabbed or killed. It was just... I always tell people to watch the movie Get the Gringo with Mel Gibson, if they want to know what like Mexican prison was like.
Wow. So you actually vouch for that movie, that it's pretty spot on.
Yeah, they did a good job on that movie.
They must have had some people inform them.
Well, there's a lot of Americans in prison over there.
Really?
There's a lot of... we tend to forget that a lot of those people come over here, work, and then go back, or they've grown up here, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of Americans over there in prison.
Do the Americans in prison over there, do they kind of like form an alliance, kind of like how there's different groups in prisons like here, like by races and such, right? Do they do that over there? Like, oh, we're all Americans, they stick together? Or is it like the regular different like gangs and groups that are in there? Is that a dumb question? I don't know.
No, it's just that over there, everybody's just trying to make it on their own. There's really no groups. I mean, there's the cartels. They go by states, states of Mexico. Gotcha. But really, you just kind of hang with who opens the door to you. I was lucky enough to get there and have already people there that worked with the family that I was working for. So when I got there, I was received. I mean, I got stabbed, when I got there, but after that, it was pretty sweet for me.
I don't know that that's well received. I'm just going to speak up and say it. That should, No, that's honestly, I can't imagine. That must have been like a really scary time in your life, especially being how old?
I was 17 years old, but I was in the prime of my violence.
Oh. So you weren't scared?
I wasn't scared.
Did you thrive there?
I mean, I sold drugs, I made a name for myself there, and I was, they used to call me Little Chicken, Chicken Little, pretty much.
Really?
Because I was so young. I was the youngest one there.
Oh, okay.
And I was always running around with my Jordan shirt on and just, I was like a Tasmanian devil from, unit to unit. All the guards knew who I was. I was always getting into fights, buying drugs. I mean, I was all over the place all the time. So, yeah.
So you were in Mexican prison for 4 years, but you were locked up a total of what? Like you said 17 or 16?
17 years.
17 years. And I know now that you have a very large spiritual impact and spiritual walk that you're on, but back then, was that a part of your life? Back then, were you exposed to spirituality or God or Jesus or any of those things? Or, what was it like back then?
I grew up Catholic. So I knew about going to church, standing up, getting on your knees, hitting your chest. I mean, I knew all the basics.
Like the religious practices.
Yeah, the religious practices. But I really didn't know in depth, scripture. I didn't know who Jesus was. So, when I started my walk a year ago, I kind of took it very serious because of what I felt that day. And I started reading, I started learning. And I was really taken back because there's an answer for everything in that little book. Like,
okay, so you kind of like brushed over it a little bit. You said in this moment you felt something, and so talk to me about that. You're saying a year ago is when this journey started for you of having a relationship with God. So before that, did you believe in God for real? Did you think it was like a made up thing? And then talk to me about like what led up to that moment. And then if you can, like, describe that moment for us, for people who like have not experienced that and don't know.
I mean, I would pray to God when like I would get arrested and they would like put the cuffs on me, and I would be like, oh God, please don't let them get me. And, you know, I would pray, but it wasn't really out of my heart. It wasn't really out of nothing, you know, it was just, you know, selfish, you know, me. But, and when I went to prison, I mean, I would go to church when I needed money. It was just a very different relationship. You know, it was about me.
That's real. What you just said, I think, is important to hear. It was a different relationship. It was just about me.
Yeah, you know, and when I met when my wife started working at the gym in 2019, she was a Christian. She was a believer, and she started telling me, I guess she could see like something in me. I guess she would always tell me that she could see through me. And she started talking to me about Jesus, and I was like, you're hot and everything, but I still wouldn't date you because you talk about Jesus too much.
Oh my gosh.
And
that's real.
She didn't stop, and she would always like just get under my skin, and she would always tell me, come over here, what does wrong to strong stand for? And I was like, look at me, it's me. She's like, you're so wrong. And I was like, why? She's like, because you should be out there. And she's the one that started telling me about it, like Jesus. So she had me watch a movie called The Shack.
I haven't heard of it.
You need to watch it.
Really?
Yeah.
Where can we find it?
It's actually on Netflix right now.
Netflix, called The Shack.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a movie about forgiveness.
Really?
And when she had me watch that movie, I mean, I had never cried the way that I cried that day. I hadn't talked to my mom in 20 years. I called her that day after that movie.
I just got chills. Wow.
I just told her that I forgave her for everything and that I loved her and I wanted her back in my life. And I wanted to learn to have a relationship with her. And called my dad after that. Told him the same thing. He didn't know how to take it. He started crying.
Oh my gosh.
And he started working on me from that day, man. And one day we were fighting really bad. Me and my wife were fighting really bad. You know, she was getting tired of just dealing with me. I was very, very damaged. I called myself damaged goods all the time, you know, and we were about to split up and I went downstairs and it was dark in the living room. It was about 3 a.m. And for the first time in my life, I was like, I'm going to get on my knees. I'm going to get on my knees and I'm going to see if this works. And I got on my knees and I don't even know how to explain it. Like something came over me where I couldn't even look up. I put my forehead down to the carpet and I just started crying nonstop, like a child. And then after I was crying, I started confessing like everything that I had done wrong in my life and people that I disliked, people that I was jealous of. I mean, even Wes Watson came out in my I was mad at him.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Wow, that's so funny. What's up, Wes?
You know, and it just, everything came out because like I had so much trapped in me. And I got up and I was like, wow, that's like the best pre-workout I've ever had. I was like, now I'm ready to work out. So okay. I went into the garage because I have a gym in the garage, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna work out now. But then I fell back to my knees again, and I started crying even more. And I don't know, something just in my heart that they told me like, you're not gonna tell the story about cartels no more. You're not gonna tell about all the pain. You're not gonna talk about none of that stuff. That's what I felt in my heart, and in my heart, I just felt that it was time for me to talk about Jesus and what he had done in my life. Wow. And how he had taken this heart out of stone out and put in like a good heart.
Wow.
And I started crying. So I went upstairs and I told my wife, I was like, that's it. I'm recording my last YouTube video. It's going to be about Jesus.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, here we go. Because once I get something in my head, I just run with it.
Yeah.
And I got on there. I started crying. And I just told people, that's it. Like, my heart feels different. I'm going to talk about this. And I grabbed the football that day and I just ran with it. And
yeah, it's real quick for context. That's beautiful. I love that you are willing to feel your feelings and feel into these moments. I think it's really strong of you to be able to do that. So I just want to verbalize that. But for context, for people that don't have reference, you were a YouTuber. So kind of explain that shift, because that's a big shift that you made, right? So explain your purpose on YouTube before that and what the content was like, and then that shift.
Well, when I started YouTube and Instagram and my social media platforms, a lot of people don't know this, but I started doing YouTube in 2013. You could search some really old videos of me. I kind of knew that that's what was going to happen. We were going to make that shift into social media.
Oh, wow.
I don't know. It was just in my heart.
Wow.
And when I came home from prison, I was like, man, look, I knew it. And I was like, I would have been ahead of everybody. Mm-hmm. But it is what it is. Anyways, but it was all about me. I wanted to be famous. I wanted everybody to know who I was. I wanted everybody to know that I rode motorcycles, that I sold drugs, that I was a macho man, that I was a thug, all these things. And it was very selfish reasons, very, very selfish reasons. It wasn't until God changed my heart that everything changed for me. And like, I don't know, like everything shifted. Like I went from, making 8,000 to 200, but I was okay with it because I knew that now my videos were being used for something positive.
Yeah.
Because I get comments all the time from like UK, South Africa. I mean, I have people watching me in the most oddest places.
Right.
and it's funny because a couple months ago I went into the mental institute and I walked in there and there's a lot of sick people in there and there was 3 people that recognized me in there.
Wow.
And they were like, you're wrong this strong, you're JC.
Wow.
And I when I left, I really started crying because like I was like, those are the people that I guess need to hear my message.
Wow.
So, it's not all about the money. And I always tell people, not all money is good money, and
because you've had money.
Yeah, and it's funny because back then I used to say, don't let money change you. And now what I say, let love change you.
That's beautiful. Love is the most powerful force in the world. And earlier when we were kind of talking about this and talking about, that moment with God and reflecting on it, it sounded like you said that was the first time that you felt that like true love, like through God and through your relationship with your wife. And, it's interesting because as you experience one thing, there's always the other side of the coin, meaning when you experience love, then you're also able to experience loss, right? It's the contrast. And there's so much beauty in the contrast. There's so much that we can learn in that contrast and gratitude that we can have when we experience the contrast, right? Like sometimes we don't, there's that song by Journey, I believe, basically saying like, you don't know what you have until you lose it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a hard lesson that we all have to learn at a certain point. But it's like, sometimes you just don't understand the value of something until you can experience the fullness of it and then not having it. And then when you get to have it again, it's like the most beautiful thing in the world that you get to treasure more than anything.
Well, I mean, a lot of people don't know, but me and my wife were about to split up a couple of months ago. And I got my own place and everything. And I was like a mess. If it wouldn't have been for my dog, I was a mess. And it was because I had never felt what love was. And now I knew what it was. So like it hurt so much. And I was so mad at my wife for showing me that.
For showing you love.
For showing me love. Because like, I was like, now I'm like this soft teddy bear now.
Yeah.
And like, now I'm vulnerable. And like, I could get hurt now. And before, I was the one doing all the hurting. I never got hurt. I just moved on to the next woman or the next person I was dating or whatever. Wow. But it's like now, You know, it's crazy because a lot of my friends were like, you know, it's only a matter of time now that they split up that he's going to get with somebody else. I sat in my apartment by myself for those 2 weeks, and it was the most rewarding thing for me to respect myself, to respect my body, to just have morals for the first time in my life. And to feel like a good conscience, because like my wife started talking to me after those 2 weeks, and she came over, and I wasn't afraid to let her in
because no one else was there.
Nobody else is there, but the old me would have done something different.
Yeah. Wow, that's huge. And recognizing that personal growth within ourselves when we go through those experiences is huge, because, you know, I think that we're always our own worst critic, and it can be really easy to get really down on ourselves. But when you really look at your journey, your life path, everything that you've gone through, struggled through, and overcome, like the things that you've personally been through would take a lot of people out. So the fact that you're not only able to go through it, but now you're able to go through it, receive a heart of love, and hold yourself to this standard of having a new set of principles that you live your life by, I think is really, really commendable.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's been a trip.
Yeah. So, you're very open about your experience in childhood and being taken advantage of. And, you know, I don't think it's necessary to go into any details there by any means, but for the men that are listening that have had a similar experience to you, they had somebody who took advantage of them when they were younger, and maybe they haven't ever talked about it. Maybe they're listening and they've never told a single soul, and it's the thing that just like kills them in the middle of the night. Is there anything that you could share with them that has helped you start to heal from that and just start to take steps away from that pit or that empty feeling or that endless suffering, that endless pain that haunts them? Is there anything that has helped you in your journey to try to cope with the reality of what they've been through?
I mean, step one is forgiving that person. I mean,
wow.
That's the first step. I mean, that was the biggest hurdle for me, was forgiving him, and, you know, forgiving him with love and just saying, you know, I don't know what happened to you or what was done to you, but I forgive you and I love you. And
gosh, how do you do that for real? Yeah. Yeah, because I'm feeling like the weight of what you're sharing. And how?
You never know what nobody's been through. That's why we shouldn't judge nobody. And who knows what happened to him, you know? So I don't blame him. I forgive him and I love him, and I hope that one day he's able to get better. That's the first step. The second step is forgiving yourself, because you didn't do nothing wrong. And that's how most of us feel. We feel like we did something, like, was I wearing something not right, or was I, you know, you start to blame yourself, and we are our worst critics. You know, you said it yourself. And I always tell people, be very careful when you hear you. It's very, very dangerous when when you start to hear that, you know, you're this, you're that. And it just, you know, it's a process that you need to get professional help and find where you could talk about it and feel comfortable talking about it with someone, because if you don't deal with it, it's gonna show up. It's gonna creep up in your life here and there, and like how you need to think, like, is it affecting you? Like, do you have a healthy sex life? I mean, I struggled with porn my whole life because of that, because sex was my first language. I used to think that sex was everything. I used to think that as soon as I met somebody, I would have sex with them. We were supposed to have a baby, and that's what it was. And I was wrong. You know, it's so much deeper, and we're not even supposed to share ourselves like that. Like, I'm learning all this, you know, from my wife.
Wow.
And I just have a new look on it, and I just my just one thing I have to tell them is don't be afraid to go get help. Don't be afraid to talk about it. There's a lot more men that have been through this than you realize, and shoot, if I could talk about it, anybody can talk about it.
Yeah, no kidding. Thank you so much for what you just shared. That's people can apply that, male or female, regardless of what they've been through. And wow, thank you for the depth of what you just shared. And how about for the people who relate to maybe the teenage version of you, right? They're caught up in the violence, maybe gangs, maybe they have so much anger and hatred in their heart, and they're just taking it out on whatever's right in front of them, whether it be a significant other or family members. But in the back of their mind, maybe they know that they actually desire change. Maybe they know that what they're doing is not the right path. Is there something that you could have told your younger self during that time? And if not, is there something that you could just share from your heart now to someone who's in that kind of mindset to show them that there's another way?
Man, the young version of me,
yeah,
I would tell him to not listen to your mind, because your mind reminds you of all the bad stuff and all the guilt and everything. And your heart kind of tells you the truth all the time, even when it hurts.
Wow.
And I believe that that's the way that God talks to you. That's the way that, your inner self talks to you. Like, when you're doing something wrong, when you feel guilty, when your heart tells you. All the mind does is just remind you of how messed up you've done, all the stuff that people that have hurt you, all lies. Your heart, listen to your heart, and it's never too late to change, and anybody could change. If I could change, man, anybody could change.
Man, that's nuts. And so thinking about the ways that God talks to you, right? Because I know a lot of people, they really seek to wrap their mind around like what it's like to have an actual relationship with God, right? So what are maybe some ways that God speaks to you? And like, can you get into like, is it this like external voice that you hear? Is it like an internal thing? Where have you felt like you've gotten fed spiritually? Like what feeds you spiritually and helps you to hear God?
It's been a lot about discipline. I'm not going to lie. Before I used to wake up and the first thing I would do would be cardio, workout, and, start following my day. Now, the first thing that I do when I wake up is I spend an hour in the complete dark and just talk to him. I sit on the stairs and I cry every day about how grateful I am. I mean, even a bad day out here is better than a good day in there.
Wow.
And I'm just grateful for what he's doing in my heart, most of all. Like, I would have never thought that I would be a man with morals. I would have never thought that I would be a man with a heart that I have now. So like, I spent an hour talking to him, and then I spent some time reading scripture. I read scripture every day. I really, really get into it. I want to be a pastor one day.
Really?
Yeah.
That's dope.
And, it's really changed me. All my friends in Chicago were like, dude, you don't even swear no more. And I was like, yeah, I try not to. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but, I make it a point to carry myself different. And they're like, no, it's cool. So now I have a Chicago Bible study now with a bunch of guys from my old neighborhood.
No way.
So it's pretty cool.
On Zoom?
Yeah.
Or something?
Yeah, every Wednesday.
Cool.
Every Wednesday we have a Zoom, and sometimes we have people from UK on there, Australia, and it started like a big. There's a Wrong to Strong Chicago podcast show too now. They're handling it. They're doing it in Chicago.
Oh wow, that's incredible.
Like, it's just to see them like grow the way that I did has been very fulfilling for me.
Yeah, that's the way, right? Is we go through these things in our life. We have our own life's journey, and as we go through our own healing and personal development and get to overcome things that almost took us out, it's like the natural thing that we want to do is then share that with others. And getting to watch people go through that life transformation on their own is one of the most rewarding and fulfilling things. I know when I listened to your episode with our friend Peter Meyerhoff, shout out Peter, we love you.
Love you, bro.
And he said that your transformation is probably one of the biggest, best transformations that he's ever seen. And like Peter knows a lot of people. For him to say that, like that's a huge deal.
Well, it's because he got to see it like right when it happened. Like I met with him 2 weeks prior to my walk. So he seen the old me.
Oh,
I was even like smoking weed that day. Like I was a mess. I was swearing, talking, you know
what? I remember him saying that. I remember him saying that, what, you were like crazy or something?
Yeah. And I was just like, he's like, okay, so what are we doing? I was like, we're walking to the park. And he's like, okay. And I was like, we're going to do 500 push-ups and we're going to do 500 pull-ups. And he's like, homie, I don't work out like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
he's like, we're not in person anymore.
And I was just a mess. I was like all over the place. So when he seen me transform and I went from the Tasmanian devil to like Winnie the Pooh.
Stop. That's actually amazing.
So he's like, man, bro, like, what did you do? He was like the number one person that kept on asking me questions and questions. Like, so how do you talk to him?
Yeah.
And I was just like, man, bro, it just happened. Your walk and your experience is gonna be like yours.
Different, yeah.
I can't explain to you why mine is the way that it is, but when you get tired and you really want to get on your knees and really, it's all about submitting. It's letting go.
Which, like, for you, given your life experience and the roles that you had in life and like being in the gang and the cartel and prison, all that, for you to go from like leadership to actually submitting, I can only imagine like how hard that must have been for you.
It was hard, but it was the most rewarding day of my life because, like I said, I feel what he did in my heart to this day. Like, I tell people, look at, when I was in the drug game, if it wasn't top-notch stuff, I wouldn't sell it. I'm selling you top-notch stuff right now. It's true. It's the truth. He changed my heart.
Wow. That's incredible. I think it's really beautiful to see someone who, like, when you share, it's felt, right? And I think that it's felt because it's coming from true life experience. It's not coming from you regurgitating something that someone else told you or a set of beliefs that you're trying really hard to believe in, but it's quite clear that it's coming from your own personal experience. And I do want to echo what you said about everyone's journey with God. You know, there's a lot of different ways that people understand God. You know, some people call it different things like source or higher power or all these other things, right? And I think a lot of people get offended by the different names that people use. And honestly, I don't, because I'm like, if you using a different term helps you to experience the realness that is there, then use a different term, but get to it. Like, just keep searching and keep going down your own path to have your own experience. Because I remember when my belief turned from a belief, something I had faith for, I believed in, to a knowing, where I had an experience a little bit different than yours, but a similar thing where it's undeniable. And what's cool is, like, at that time in my life, I was praying and I was asking God. I believed in him my whole life. I felt like I had these, like, you know, kind of like God moments where I was like, I feel like this is definitely him speaking to me. And it was, but I was like, God, I'm not gonna lie. I don't have an unshakable faith. I hear about this like unshakable faith where no matter what anyone tells you, you know that God is real. You've had this experience, right? And I was like, I want that. And I prayed for that for a long time. And eventually, it's actually my tattoo that I have right here was this day where I like experienced God for real in my bedroom when I was still and present, and I just asked to be with him. And he literally said, like, from the inner depths of my soul and heart, I am here. I have always been here. And that's what's tattooed right here, you know? And I think it's really powerful when your belief goes from belief to knowing. And it's beautiful to hear how yours went.
I love how you just said that because, when I was confessing everything, there was a dark room that person used to lock me in for hours. And I was like really terrified of, dark. I would sleep with a nightlight, like being a big bad gangster. I would have always a nightlight in my room.
Yeah.
And he used to lock me in that room. So when I was like talking to God and I was crying, I was like literally bawling, crying. And I told him, where were you when I was locked in that room as that little kid sitting in that corner afraid? And you know what he told me? I was there with you the whole time.
Oh my God.
And that just made me cry even more because I felt it.
Wow.
I felt it. And ever since then, like I feel stronger. I feel different. I feel healthier. I mean, I'm even dieting now. Something I never did before. So it's like, it's changed my whole life because it's just, God is good, and like you said, many people use a lot of different names and stuff like that. Whatever you have to do to feel his presence, do it. I mean, just like in AA and NA, they always say higher power. I always tell people I've been going to AA and NA meetings since 1988. My dad's been like a big AA guy since day one. And I'm a big believer in that program because it's the program about truth. Once you start to tell the truth, your whole life starts to change.
The truth will set you free.
Yes, and that's what the program is about, and it's God-based. They just don't say it, but that's why it works.
Yeah, and that's why I'm never offended when people use different terms because, for example, if people came into AA and they made it like so, just blatant saying God or things that when people hear those terms, they turn off sometimes. And they're not even open to it. And because they're not open to it, they don't experience it. So for me, I'm like, man, whatever gets you to have that experience so you can know for yourself and get that like foot in the door to be like, okay, hang on, there's something else here that I was unaware to, then do it. Like I'm a huge just fan of that.
I have a name for it. It's called Jesus with a ski mask.
Stop.
So I want to make these shirts, right? Have you seen those pillows that have like, you go like that and it's like one thing and then you go up.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to do a ski mask. And then when you go like that, it's Jesus when you go up.
That's dope. I'll buy one. I'll be your first purchase. Okay. So for the people that are in prison and, they've gotten caught, they've gotten locked up, maybe they've been there for a minute now and they don't really see a future for their lives. When, they think about like a vision for their lives, they literally cannot imagine a vision for their lives. But, yet here you are living proof and an example of like what life can be like outside. And the fact that like you have experienced love and you experience gratitude at a level that brings you to your knees and in tears on a daily basis. Like, what can you say to those people that are in prison, they're locked up and they just don't see a way to happiness or love or joy?
Honestly, I have to keep it real. My dude's locked up because it's a different kind of like, it's a little bit more tough love. For one, own it. If you did it, own it. That means that when you get to that yard, do everything that you can to get better. Use that time to become someone else. So if you went in there as a bank robber, a thug, or whatever you went in as, come out a different person. Come out with a GED. Come out with they have a lot of programs in there.
Really?
You could come out a better person.
Wow.
I'm not saying there's a lot like that, but there's some. I mean, I got my GED in there. I got college credits in there.
No way.
I learned how to play an instrument in there. There's 3 types of people in there. There's people that spend all the time in education. There's people that spend all the time watching TV. And there's people that spend all their time working out. If you could only find a balance and doing all those with a little bit of spiritual work on yourself, you could come out a different person. I wish I could go back and actually listen to the OGs that used to tell me that. And I would have been probably like a doctor right now.
Okay, yeah. So let's say they're in there. Like if you could go back right now and you were having to go back to prison, what would you create as your daily routine? What would it be like?
I mean, it would be working out, spiritual work on myself, self-development. I mean, you're put in a place where you have to sit there in quiet and listen to every single one of your demons.
Oof.
So when I spent that year in solitary confinement, like it really made me realize how crazy I was. Like I could hear the voices. I could see the faces.
Wow.
And I started to understand why people went crazy in there, because now you don't have the noise of the world. Now you don't have the noise of people around you. Now there's nobody around. It's just you and you. So now you get to hear everything. And I have this test that I put most of my guys that I mentor, they have to spend 24 hours in the bathroom.
No way.
Yeah. Yeah. They have to put, in the bathtub, they'll put their stuff to sleep, your pillow, everything, the food that you're going to eat for those 24 hours. But you need to sit in that quiet room for 24 hours before we start anything.
Wow.
Then after that, you tell me what you want to do with your life.
What is the purpose of doing that? Why do you make them do that?
Everybody needs to shut off sometimes and listen to themselves. Even nowadays with the phones and social media and everything, that's why I'm really big on turning my phone off. That's why, when I spend time with my wife, I'll leave my phone somewhere else, because I believe that we live in such a busy world now that we forget who we are, or we lose our path. It's really easy to go off the path because it's so narrow. So if you don't remind yourself every day, if you don't spend time with yourself, you need to spend time with yourself. You'll forget.
I love that you say that, because it's so true. We're so inundated with things all the time. We have so much information, so many news feeds, so many articles and titles that are popping up they're like inputs into our mind, right? And whether we know it or not, they are shaping our mind and creating our mindset. And so I think it's really important to pay attention to what your inputs are. So what are some of those inputs that you have in your life every day that shape your mind, that shape your perspective, that help to cultivate a strong and a positive mindset?
Most people look at diet just like the food. Everything you consume is your diet.
I love that. Whether
it's music, stuff you watch, stuff you read, everything you put into your body is your diet. So guess what? Back in the day, I would wake up at 3 a.m. and the first thing I would listen to would be, "B better have my money," and it was all the swearing and the bass and I would leave my house like a Tasmanian devil, to work. I would be going 100 miles an hour.
Oh wow!
And now it's I wake up, I get my coffee, I sit down. I'm not in a hurry. I call it I'm on Jesus time. And, I don't listen to rap no more. I'm very restricted on what I listen to. I listen to a lot of music from the 80s that don't swear. I listen to a lot of Christian music. My favorite song is Rescue by, I forgot her name.
Lauren. Is it Lauren?
Yeah, Lauren something. I love her. But everything that I watch, even what I watch, I try to I just don't need to feed myself stuff like that, because remember, it all starts here and then it ends up in your heart. And then that turns into something you want to do. And then it evolves into something.
Yeah.
So why even feed it? You know how they say the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence?
100%.
Well, it's because you're just spending all your time looking at the other side of the fence. You're not watering your own grass.
It's so good.
And then that's the thing, is that's why when me and my wife were having all those problems and everything, it's really easy to pack up and leave and get your own place and that's it, and move on to the next one. That's the easy. But I felt like a sellout. I felt like I wasn't loyal to her. So I was like, you know what? Nah, I'm gonna put all my pride to the side. Hey babe, I messed up. I'm the one that messed up. What do I need to do to prove to you that I love you? And I was lucky enough that she gave me another chance. But this is all things that I've learned through these couple of years that I've been out, because this wasn't me a couple of years ago. I didn't know what making up was, or even telling the truth. I lied my whole life.
Wow.
To stay out of prison, to not get raped, to not get beat up. I lied my whole life. And even when I changed my life, I was still lying, but they were white lies. But they were okay because they were white lies. No, they were still lies. And my wife, she's like a CIA,
all of us women are. If we ask a question, we already know the answer.
Exactly. She looked at my Google history and stuff, and it was so cool. She was like, "Hey, so have you been watching porn?" And I'm like, "What? What happened?"
What happened?
You go deaf when you get caught.
You go deaf.
And I was like, and she knows it's something that I struggled with, So I lied. I said, nah, babe. Just a couple times here and there. Oh, really? I mean, she was looking at all the history, and I'm like, all right, I'll call you back. I didn't know how to tell the truth.
Damn.
And so I had to sit there and really, like, I guess you could say, do a nut check. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna lose her because, like, I'm up to my old shenanigans again, and I'm not being real with myself. So I had to fess up and be like, babe, like, I wrote this down. Can I read it to you? Because I don't want to lose you.
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, I mean, it's been a learning process.
I feel you, because it's like, what I respect and admire about you is not that you're a perfect person. You're not. I'm not. No one is. But it's the fact that you're willing to face all of your shit. Even if and when you mess up, even if and when you choose the wrong thing, you're like turning it around and making it right. And I can really always admire and respect someone that is willing to do whatever it takes to make things right. And, you know, facing your shit on a daily, weekly, everyday basis, it takes a lot of strength, you know, and when you're on this process of personal development in this journey, it's harder than it is to just ignore it or to numb it, right?
It is.
Sometimes I would think about that and be like, man, it would be so much easier just to be like numbing thing, like stay so busy that I can't feel this, right? Like my survival instinct was just busyness and work 24/7. And, you know, if I worked so hard and I achieved all these things, then I could feel better or I wouldn't have to feel the pain of the past, right? So choosing to be still, choosing to face your darkness, choosing to say you're sorry and to learn things for the first time, like truth and forgiveness or whatever it might be, is the hardest, but also the most rewarding thing that you could ever do. And I just, again, some gratitude for you, because I just feel that you're a leader who a lot of people are going to look to they're going to realize they have no excuse. You know, like when you share your story, I think that is what I'd like to reflect, is that people are going to be like, damn, I really thought I had an excuse and now I don't.
You know, my wife didn't want me to share like what we're going through and everything. She's like, it's embarrassing. And I'm like, no, babe, I feel like I need to share it because I feel that there's a lot of guys like me that are making these excuses and they're losing probably like the love of their life because like they're not understanding that, you know, they could change.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's way easier to I mean, look at how big the divorce rate is now. I think it's at 72%.
72.
Yeah. So it's easier to run, shack up with someone else and all that and relearn the whole process, I guess. But man, true love is when you actually try to work through the problems. That's true love.
And when you're the most authentic version of yourself, even when you think it's going to piss them off, even when you think that, you know, you're going to be judged for it or whatever, it's like, are you willing to risk being the fullness of who you are, darkness and all?
That's why I tell you, like, my wife is from New Jersey. I mean, her last name says it all, Savage.
Stop.
That's her last name.
That's amazing. Yeah. Hold on. Sorry, but can we just take a moment that somehow you met somebody with the last name Savage? Like, that is so for you.
And, you know, one day I was in the kitchen and we had got into a fight about something, my crazy stuff. And she's like, when are you going to stop being a little girl about it? And you talk all this game about how tough you are and you're playing a victim.
Damn.
And, you know, I had never been spoken to like that. And, you know, people have gotten shot for talking to me the wrong way.
Stop.
You know, and my wife talking to me like this really hurt me. But at the same time, it changed me. And I honestly believe that, you know, she is my partner. She is my partner. She is the one that I'm supposed to spend the rest of my life with. She's my best friend. Like I said, she never judged me. I told her everything when we first met, everything about me. And she never judged me, nothing. I mean, I was like, where did this girl come from?
Wow.
And she's hot. I was
yeah,
like,
she's beautiful.
I was like, I don't know what I did, but thank you.
Yeah.
No.
That's incredible. And I think, we were kind of talking before the show about how, it's important that people have a space of non-judgmental love, because I think that that's true love. And I think that that's when that changes people, because they're finally able to have that, like, it's almost like a sigh of relief, or like a breath of fresh air to be like, oh, like I can actually be who I am, faults and all. And you're not going to judge me for it. You're not going to, and having that space is really special. So thank you for sharing that. And I do have to say, I know that people deal with that feeling of, like, when you said your wife was like, it's a little embarrassing that we're going through this. I understand where that comes from. And I think a lot of people have that feeling because we have this pressure almost to like have it together, or to like have already been through the stuff, or to only talk about it when we're on the other side of things. But man, it is so relatable to hear, like, man, we struggle sometimes. We have split up for a second. We've thought about, getting divorced. That's real and that's relatable. Literally, statistics show that, right? So being able to come in the thick of it and share what you're struggling through and how you're working through things and things that have gone wrong, it like sets people free, because it's truth, right? Like, just like what we talked about earlier, truth sets you free. So thank you for the gift of truth. Truth is a gift. It literally brings freedom to other people. And I think it's so respectable. I think it's so much more respectable than someone who gets on here who's like a relationship expert and tells you how things should go. Like, please shut up.
Look, I always tell people, if it's not costing you work, then it ain't real.
Yeah.
It's all work.
Yeah, that's so true. Well, okay. Tell me a few things that have been like accolades or accomplishments or things that you are really proud of yourself for since turning your life around.
I mean, there's a lot of things that I'm doing now that I would never thought I would be doing. I'm writing books. I'm working on 3 books right now.
Wow.
And this is with a guy that doesn't know how to spell. So I'm taking acting classes.
No way.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And you just tell them about the National Geographic.
Oh, so I've been on 3 shows now. So I've been on Dead Files, I've been on National Geographic, and America's Most Evil Gangster. So I've been on 3
That's
shows.
awesome.
It's been a little wild. It's been fun. I can't lie. And like, I just would have never thought that a kid from the streets would be doing the things that I'm doing right now. And like, I've always been a dreamer. So I'm dreaming about, being in a movie one day. I'm dreaming about releasing my book, releasing my supplement line, my Christian urban clothing line, just so many things. And I have Wrong to Strong teams pretty much in Texas now, Chicago, Florida, South Africa.
What is that? Explain your Wrong to Strong and the teams.
So I've been a gang expert since day one. So I know how to start gangs. I know.
Oh my gosh, that is amazing.
I know how to run gangs.
So you started a gang for good.
Yes. So we started a Jesus gang now. So there's groups of us all over the place, and I'm pretty much, it's just the Wrong Strong movement. Like,
that's cool.
Everybody's done something wrong, but when we get up and become stronger and learn from that, it's no longer a mistake. It's a mistake if you keep making it. So like, that's my whole like mission, just trying to give hope to the hopeless.
Yeah. Wow. That is dope. And also like, I respect that so much. You're like, well, I know how to start gangs. See, you can use that experience for good.
Yep.
That's incredible. So, okay. Where can people contact you if they're looking to get some transformational coaching or mentorship with you?
Honestly, all they have to do is type in Wrong to Strong and everything. I've done really good on the whole search engine thing.
Oh yeah? How did you learn how to do that?
I watched YouTube videos for a whole year on how to edit, how to develop, how to do everything for YouTube. So I taught myself how to do everything.
YouTube is amazing. I learn everything from
YouTube.
there. Yeah. YouTube, we love you. Well, hey, today has been absolutely incredible. I really can't thank you enough for just everything that you've shared with the audience. And just really want to reflect to you that your story is making an impact, probably more than you know, and that you are just such a leader in what you're doing. And even with the mistakes that you make and will make in the future, like, you are just so valuable to this world. And I'm so glad that you're here. And I want to encourage all the listeners that are listening right now that if you felt impacted by this episode, to shoot them a DM and just let them know. You know, you never know when someone receives an encouraging DM like that, where they might be in their life. And if it brought you value, feel free, please, to share that with him. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. You guys know the drill. If you enjoyed today's episode, please do us a favor and share it on your Instagram stories. Text it to one friend that you think might need to hear this message. And without further ado, I will see you guys in the next episode of Evolve with Emily. Bye, everyone.